Hey friends, this is Alex from Vulture Culture and welcome to Fundamentals of EQ. Today we're going to be learning how to EQ vocals out of solo. Before we get started, please like this video if you found it helpful and subscribe to the channel if you want to see all of the Fundamentals of EQ tutorials. And I'm going to be using Re-EQ, which is the stock EQ plugin in Reaper, but you could use whatever EQ plugin you'd like. So let's get started. So in our last video, we EQ'd vocals, and I've renamed this instance EQ'd in solo. So what we did was we EQ'd these vocals without listening to the rest of the track to see how it sounds.
There's nothing left here for us. I couldn't take it if you stayed. My world has been painted black and gray. I know
It's not terrible, but it doesn't sound great, that's for sure. So I'm going to add another, and I'm going to rename this one by pressing F2, EQ'd out of solo. So what that means is, if anybody's curious about that, is I'm not going to hit the solo switch. Now, because I'm speaking through this microphone, if I hit solo, my voice will disappear, or what I'm saying. But if you, I'm just going to mute everything, and that was the equivalent of putting this in solo. But today I'm going to EQ these vocals without putting them in solo, which is how I recommend you EQ vocals. So this is the vocals without any EQ on them, a flat EQ curve.
there's nothing left here for us. I couldn't take it if you stayed. My world has been painted black and gray.
Man, it makes me queasy playing this out, to all of the internet, because I haven't ever done that before. But I wanted to show you what vocals sound like when they're not EQ'd and how much processing goes into a home recording. So the first thing is we're going to set this EQ up a little different than the first one, so it's a little bit easier. I like to have a low shelf at 100 hertz. That's going to control the very lowest part of my voice. And I'm actually going to set a high pass filter up. And for now, I'm just going to drag this all the way down to 20 hertz. And I'm going to set up another low shelf. I'm going to set this to 500 hertz. And 500 is the sort of middle frequency of, this is sort of, if this is the mid-range between 500 to 2K, 2K to 5K is your treble, and then your ultra higher air. 500 to 100 is kind of like the low mid-range, and I want to really tame that region quickly. Okay, so now I'm going to set up a high shelf to 2K, 2000 hertz. And the reason is when you look at a Fletcher-Munson curve, which is where they studied the sensitivity of the human ear, the ear is not that sensitive in this region, but around here is where it becomes very sensitive and then tapers back off. So the 2K region is probably one of the most important regions when you're EQing vocals, because the whole point of having really great vocals is that they stand out on top of the mix. So we need to be very careful in here. Going to add another high shelf at 5K, 5000 hertz, and this is a pretty important region too. This is the really the bite or the treble of the voice, and make this a high shelf. And I'm going to do one more up at 10K. And this is the air that exists on the very top of my voice, and that's going to be very important, especially in like any sort of EDM or pop vocal. You really want an extreme amount of air. That's very popular right now. And I like setting up an EQ like this before I get started, because when I'm in solo, I don't want to be messing, or when you're in solo, you can really be particular with it, but when you're out of solo, you kind of want to be able to make some big moves quickly. So let's get started.
There's nothing left here for us. I
So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this high pass up.
My world has been painted black and gray. I know I'm nothing to you. Another heart that
because we just don't need anything under 130 or so. It's not contributing anything positive. I might just set this to 100 so that I'm not competing with this. Take this low shelf and I'm going to scoop out all of these low frequencies. I'm going to use it basically as a knob to control that section to really get rid of some of the worst of that.
There's nothing left here for us. I couldn't take it if you stayed. My world
Volume match that up a little.
painted black and gray. I know I'm nothing to you. Another heart that
Incredibly, it seems like I scoop even a little more out.
I don't want your fabricated love. There's nothing left here for us. I couldn't take it if you stayed.
So I want to do most of my moves with EQ subtractively. And in fact, I'm going to add another band at 1K. This is the mid-range of any instrument, but it's kind of important to keep a handle on this when you're EQing vocals, because if you want it to have that nice scoop sound, you want to have a little less of this, and if you want to have like a really bright, especially for like rock vocals or something, you might want a little more of this.
There's nothing left here for
But in this case, I'm going to take a little
I
out,
couldn't take it if you stayed. My
just to clean it up a little. Now I'm going to boost here until we start getting some.
I'm nothing to you. Another heart that you're sick of. I don't want your fabricated love. There's nothing left here for us. I couldn't take it if you stayed. My world has been painted black and gray. I know I'm nothing to you. Another heart that you're sick of.
Incredibly, I think it actually still needs just a little bit more. We'll volume match it down a little.
There's nothing left here for
Maybe not that much.
us. I couldn't take it if you stayed. My world has been.
And as I'm mixing out of solo, the important point here is that I'm really trying to listen to how it sounds in the mix. And what's funny is if I solo this on its own, it's probably not going to sound as good as the other one did on its own.
There's nothing left here for us.
I mean, it kind of sounds almost thin and annoying, but comparing it just where we're at right now to the other one,
There's nothing left here for us. I couldn't take it if you stayed.
I mean, this sounds, obviously I need to bring the volume down a little bit, but I mean, it just sounds immediately much more radio. So now what I want to do is I want to take out a little of this 10K because it's actually getting a really annoying kind of sort of sibilance on the top.
There's nothing left here for us. I couldn't take it if you stayed.
But I want to add some of this 5K in to compensate for that a little.
I know I'm nothing to you.
Bring some air back.
Another heart that you're sick of. I don't want your fabricated.
All right, so we're going to compare to EQ'd in solo.
There's nothing left here for us. I couldn't take it if you stayed. My world has been painted black and gray. I know I'm
To EQ'd out of solo.
There's nothing left here for us. I couldn't take it if
That's pretty dramatic, isn't it?
my world has been.
So what I want to do is I actually want to grab in here. I'm going to actually just boost a little at the 100 hertz because it's gotten a little too thin.
There's nothing left here for us. I couldn't take it if you stayed.
And I like doing that. It's really just bending this curve here. But I do like to have a little of that fundamental coming through a little stronger.
There's nothing left here for us. I couldn't take it if you stayed. My world has been painted.
Especially because I have a deep voice, I want to make sure that some of that resonance comes through and I haven't thinned it out too much and killed what's kind of unique about my voice. All right, so once again, let's check the EQ'd in solo.
There's nothing left here for us. I couldn't take it.
It's not terrible.
Stayed. My world has been painted black and gray. I know I'm nothing to you.
I mean, it's That's a big difference between the two. You can really hear how much better this vocal sounds in the mix compared to everything else. Now, let's listen to out of the mix real quick. Let's listen in solo real quick.
There's nothing left here for us.
Let's listen to
I
this.
couldn't take it if you stayed. My world has been painted black.
So here's the point of the whole these two videos is I actually like how it sounds on its own, EQ'd in solo. It's a little less extreme. It's not like bitey. It's not annoying sounding at all. But in the mix, it doesn't matter how it sounds in solo. No one's going to hear it in solo. All anyone's ever going to hear is how it sounds out of solo. And so it's so much more important to make your EQ moves with how it sounds out of solo.
There's nothing left here for us. I couldn't take it if you stayed. My world has been
Just sounds light years better than this.
I know I'm nothing to you.
This isn't terrible, but it doesn't have that radio polish on it. And, you know, like I said, it sounds way better in solo, but it doesn't sound better in the mix. So that's why you should always EQ vocals or pretty much anything out of solo, even though the tendency for everybody is to hit that solo button and really get precious with it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like the video if you found it helpful and subscribe to the channel if you want to see all of the fundamentals of EQ tutorials, and I'll see you in the next video.